What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, and I'm back. Yes, indeed. I'm Brian Redmond, and this is the Relationship Rehab. And on tonight, yes, as they say in the church, on tonight, we have a really good show for you. It is what it is, man. But thank God for Rumble. That's all I can say, man. And if you have not, please go subscribe to my Rumble, because this here ain't promised. And also, subscribe to the Guru and the Whore over on Rumble, too. Tommy and I about to start doing our show again. Yeah. When are we as black folks? Everybody talk about when black community gonna ever come together. When black folks gonna ever get it right. Will black folks ever be able to overcome? Oh, he been saying that shit for 40 years, since I've been around. I think it needs to be a little bit more basic than that. I know this may be a shocker. But when are we as black folks just gonna treat each other with respect? When are we gonna treat each other with respect? How do I better myself? It's by doing the work myself. I need to work on myself by changing myself. How do I better my people? I need to change the thought process and the thought patterns of our people. Period. That's just what it is. Period. That's just what it is. I don't think that the social engineers were able to see it this far, but the idea and the premise to say, hey, if we can get the main decision maker and the leader out of the home, then we as the government can essentially control this group of people. And that's just something that has been factual with just society. When the man is not in charge of the home, when the man is not present in the home, then it leaves the family vulnerable. It just does. And so I believe that was done purposely for a position of control. What racist system is holding back the 3 black mayors? 3 black mayors. They don't fucking care. They let these niggas run over the streets. They let these niggas. I'm just saying. What system is holding back the mayor of Chicago? What racist system is holding back the mayor of New York? You tell me. Fill me in. Let me know what racist system got these mayors held back. Ain't none. And let me wrap up with this. I'm going to my God. Thanks. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy. I'm back. Yes, indeed. I'm Brian Redmond, and this is the Relationship Rehab. And on tonight, yes, as they say in the church, on tonight, we have a really good show for you. It is what it is, man. But thank God for Rumble. That's all I can say, man. And if you have not, please go subscribe to my Rumble, because this here ain't promised. And also, subscribe to the Guru and the Whore over on Rumble too. Tommy and I about to start doing our show again. Yeah. When are we as black folks? Everybody talk about when black community gonna ever come together. When black folks gonna ever get right. Will black folks ever be able to overcome? Oh, you've been saying that shit for 40 years since I've been around. I think it needs to be a little bit more basic than that. I know this may be a shocker. But when are we as black folks just gonna treat each other with respect? When are we gonna treat each other with respect? How do I better myself? It's by doing the work myself. I need to work on myself. By changing myself. How do I better my people? I need to change the thought process and the thought patterns of our people. Period. That's just what it is. Period. That's just what it is. I don't think that the social engineers were able to see it this far, but the idea and the premise to say, hey, if we can get the main decision maker and the leader out of the home, then we as the government can essentially control this group of people. And that's just something that has been factual with just society. When the man is not in charge of the home, when the man is not present in the home, then it leaves the family vulnerable. It just does. And so I believe that was done purposely for a position of control. What racist system is holding back the 3 black mayors? 3 black mayors. They don't fucking care. They let these niggas run over the streets. They let these niggas. I'm just saying. What system is holding back the mayor of Chicago? What racist system is holding back the mayor of New York? You tell me. Fill me in. Let me know what racist system got these mayors held back. Ain't none. And let me end wrap up with this. I'm going to my God. Thanks.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Brian Redmond. Yes, we are back for yet another show on tonight. Yes, indeed, on tonight we are back for yet another show, and we are going to get it started right. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Please click that like button, click the subscribe button if this is your first time here on the channel. And let me I think I got my stuff together. Yep, we sounding good, and I think everything else is great. So yep, we can get it cracking. All right, guys, I am going to start off with my favorite part of the show, and then we're going to dive right in.
Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
All right. So, first up, I want to show you, let me make sure I get the right video up. Let's see, where's that? There we go. Okay. So I want to basically just show you the because there's two conversations that were had about this. And the first one, it was, I guess, supposed to be a debate, but the way that they carried on, it really kind of like was just a back and forth match. It wasn't really like a struggle. It wasn't well structured. I'll say that. So let me go ahead and we'll get started with that part first. And then there's like a part 2 for it. So those of you may have seen some of this. This is Joy Reid. And yes, she kind of, I don't know what that is on top of her head, but nevertheless, she was acting, shout out to my man, David Williams. She was actually having a conversation with this lady named Tiffany Justice. And she's from a group called Moms for Liberty, right? And they're discussing this book. And the problem with this book, it's not necessarily the content, because this is America and freedom of speech and all that good stuff. You should be able to write about whatever you want to write about. However, it's not necessarily the content, but it's where the content is being placed. And that is kind of like the debate. And she's kind of like deflecting a little bit and not really acknowledging like, I'm sorry. She's actually deflecting a little bit and not actually acknowledging what the real facts are as far as if this book should be allowed in public schools. And she's kind of like trying to stay away from that. And she goes off into a whole different direction. But I guess that question is, though, that was still being posed, is that should content like this be allowed in public schools? And I think that was the bigger question. And even though she didn't want to answer it because she really couldn't, but let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's see what happens.
LGBTQ parents and parents of LGBTQ kids, do they have parental rights?
Every parent, Joy. Every parent means every parent has the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
And liberal parents? Do liberal parents have those rights as well?
All parents. Sure.
So let me point you to some statistics, because the question becomes then who gets to decide what all kids get to read. The Washington Post took a look at about 1,000 plus book challenges that were filed, and they found that they were filed nationwide by just 11 people. Each of these people brought 10 or more challenges against books in their school district. Together, these serial filers constituted 6% of all book challengers, but they were responsible for 60% of filings. In Florida, Tampa Bay Times, they found that of roughly 1,100 complaints recorded in Florida since July 2022, we're talking about more than 700 just from two counties, Escambia in the Western Panhandle and Clay County. Together, those are less than 3% of the public school enrollment, 600 of those complaints, 2 people. Why should 13 people get to decide what books tens of thousands?
Okay, and so the argument that she's trying to make is to say, well, why would 10 people or 11 people be able to decide what tens of thousands of children get to have access to? And I guess the thing is, it's not so much as trying to have such a small group, tell, such a larger group what they can and can't have access to. I think it should be done, pretty much just like, how many people decide what rating a television show is? How many people decide what rating a movie is? And this is, something that goes out to millions, hundreds of millions of people. Who decides if a movie is rated R or rated PG-13? How many people are deciding that for us? What's the criteria, and how is it that small group of people gets to put a movie, in this particular category? It's kind of like a point that she's trying to make to argue. But the problem with her argument is that when you're talking about children, there needs to be a clear line drawn as to what they have access to. And I would simply separate it like this. And you all have heard me say this plenty of times before. You don't put children in adult situations, and you don't let children make adult decisions. So with that being said, why would I want my child reading a book about adult situations, adult content, and or extremely graphic content? Why would I want my child to be exposed to that? Now, should my child be able to, learn about it? If that's what I want my child to learn, absolutely. I'm that child's parent. And if I want to teach my child about whatever content it is that I want to expose my child to, hey, so be it. As long as it's not illegal content, yes, I should be able to do it. However, in a public school setting, because parents are not able to be involved in a capacity to where they could literally see every piece of content that their kid is exposed to, you should just play it safe and keep it to where children do not have access to graphic content. How many people get together and decide if a game is considered graphic or not? Right? But then look on the other side of this. How many parents actually still go and buy those games for those children? And that's the difference. It's not a thing to where these kids should be able to go into any GameStop or any game store and get whatever game they want, because nope. If a parent wants their child to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and they go and buy the game for them, then absolutely they should be able to play it, because that's what their parent is allowing them to do. But would I want my kid playing a game at a school like that and I'm not okay with my kid playing that game? Absolutely not.
Of children get to read?
Well, I'm thinking it's probably because those 13 people saw what some of the content was in the books. I mean, explicit, graphic, sexual content. And I'm happy to talk about some of that content if you'd like to.
Well, this is the question again. The books that are being banned, I want to give you just
No books are being banned.
Hold on a second.
Well, no, Joy, but I want to be clear. No one's banning books. Write the book, print the book, publish the book, put the book in the public library, sell the book, right? We're talking about a public school library.
And I like the way that she tried to frame it. And this was the good way that she didn't allow her to do that, because she's trying to make it to where the book is being banned. No, it's not being banned. It's just not being allowed in the schools. Or if you want to just say it's being banned from schools, yes, but the book is not banned. It's not that it's not available anywhere. It's just not available in the public school libraries. And I don't see what the problem is with that. Whatever it is a child can wants to have access to, fine, but not in the public school library. Kid wants to go to the city library. You want to allow your child to go and see any and every type of content that they want at your local city library, whatever the case may be. Hey, go right ahead, but not in a public school library, because it's not just your kid getting access to that. It's everybody's kid having access to it.
Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. I did a FOIA records request, and I wanted to see what kinds of internet sites are banned in schools, if we're going to talk about banning, right? And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet.
Exactly. And this, and right here, in my opinion, was her winning the debate. So if my kid can't go and access whatever content they want on the internet, why would they then have access to books, to whatever kind of content that's out there in book form? Why would I allow my child to be able to say, oh, you can't go to none of these websites, but these books that talk about this stuff that's on these websites, you're more than welcome to that. Go ahead, knock yourself out, kid. That makes no sense whatsoever. And why a parent would be okay with that and not the other, that is just mind-boggling to me. I don't want my kid to be around that type of content when they are at school. And it's like, if you want your kid to be around it, great. But you do not have the right to put your kid in the same, or put my kid in the same level of exposure to that type of content in a public school setting. You just shouldn't. It's just like school lunch. What if I want my kid to have filet mignon every day for school lunch? What do I have to do? I would have to buy it, cook it, and pack it myself for my kid to have it. Otherwise, they're getting this standard school lunch, whether it's free or reduced or paid. You get this standard lunch, and it is based on a food nutrition committee, I guess, that decides what a kid can and can't have. If I want my kid to have, if my kid is vegan and I want my kid to just only eat tofu and whatever else vegans eat, I can't mandate the school to provide that every day. No, I need to buy it for my child, and I need to send my child to school with that type of food.
So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
Let me give you an example of some of the books that have been removed from shelves as a result of the activities of organizations like Moms for Liberty.
We're not going to talk like Moms for Liberty. We're going to talk specifically Moms for Liberty.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to have this conversation with you, Joy.
Absolutely.
But we're going to be specific about the actions of Moms for Liberty.
Oh, 100%.
Because I can't be possibly responsible for every single parent in America.
But your organization is the lead. You're the leading organization that's doing this. You have chapters all over the country.
Okay, well, just talk. If she's the leading authority, if she's the leading group with these bans, then why would you need to bring up other groups? She can't speak for other groups. She's not in control of these other groups. And even if those other groups are following in their footsteps and following their trends, she still would not be able to speak to that and what and why they do what they do when she's there to speak on her group. So I don't know why she would try to throw that. Well, I do know why she's trying to throw that in. Joy is simply trying to throw all of this extra stuff in to try to bolster her position and her point of view. So she's adding in other areas and other groups' information to make it seem like it's all her.
And other organizations are following your lead. And PEN America has they have posted the list of books that have been removed from shelves as a result of these activities. So let me just read you a couple of them. Anne Frank's A Diary of a Young Girl. Mouse, which is a book about the Holocaust, a graphic novel.
And here's my thing. I'm okay with those books being banned. If I want my kid to read it and it's graphic, I should have to provide it for my kid to read because it's so graphic. Why is it so hard? And I don't know why you wouldn't look at a type of person that's trying to do something like that and trying to expose a kid to that kind of stuff as having some type of alternative agenda. You just have to be.
Queer, a memoir, All Boys Aren't Blue, Beloved, Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, Ruby Bridges Goes to School, Slaughterhouse-Five, The Color Purple, Forever by Judy Blume. I could go on. These are books that are not only popular, in some cases are classics. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Let me give you an example.
And my thing would be, if it has graphic, detailed stuff in it, it should not be there. That's it. It's like they're making this into a thing, and they're making it so hard that it really shouldn't be. It's very easy.
I'd like to answer your question.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned a list of books. And so
Yeah.
Moms for Liberty doesn't have like a national book list. There was never a list of books that we put out and said, parents, be concerned about these books, right? We didn't do it because we want our parents to be effective advocates. So when moms are going into the libraries and the schools, when they're seeing what their children have access to, when they go to speak to the superintendent or the principal, they have accurate information, right? They're
And where are
effective
they getting their
advocates.
information from?
You can just go online to a catalog in your children's library, and you can see what
Without
books are
reading the
available.
books. What is
no?
what is? One moment. What is booklooks.com?
I'm aware of a website called booklooks.com.
Here's my thing. Without reading them, I would say, how would I, to know what a book is about, or to know to what level of content the book is speaking on, or how graphic a book is, would everyone have to read that book, or would you just need to know the general premise of the book and what happens in the book, even if it's out of context? Because when it comes to certain graphic things, it really doesn't matter what context you put it in. It's still going to be graphic, and that doesn't make it okay because of the context that it's in. I just don't agree with that. Just saying.
Our parents can go and see some of the books that other parents are concerned about.
Booklooks.com has been used in Florida extensively in counties like, I used to live in Broward County. I lived there for 14 years.
Okay.
In counties like Broward, counties like Clay, counties like Escambia, Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com. And it's essentially a cliff notes for books.
Yeah.
So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has.
Everyone should go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what happens is you
Right.
can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like rape.
You can find sure.
Or anal rape or dildo.
You can find all sorts
those types
of keywords.
of words. But like
wait, hold on, wait. Let me finish my question. Then
great.
you can answer. I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
And she should. And here's my thing to Tiffany. She should have let her just finish, because the argument that she has and comes back with, hands down, you can't beat it. But just listen, she should have let her finish instead of cutting her off, because no matter how she frames this, you can't justify the comment she's going to make to rebut it.
And so what you find is the keyword that you find, the N word, anything, words like you just used, then you'll get out of context passages from the book. And then based on that, Moms for Liberty members are going to places like Broward County School Board meetings, reading out of context passages from these books, and then demanding that the school board remove them.
Yes, she is 1000% correct. If I go as a parent and I read from a book, and out of that book, regardless of the context of it, if the content is too graphic, it absolutely should be not allowed in a public school library.
So what's
that is the way.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is it?
And just because a book wins an award does not in any shape, form, or fashion mean that it's appropriate for children. I don't understand how she tried to, and I would have hit her with that first off. I would have said, so are you trying to tell me that if a book wins an award, it is appropriate for all ages? Like, you can't be that stupid. You can't be that disingenuous to make that type of statement, because you are totally trying to just manipulate the conversation as opposed to actually having a real conversation. It won an award. Oh, so then everyone should read it. Give a copy to my 5-year-old. I can read it to my 5-year-old when they go to sleep at night. It'll be a great story. It's like they're just certain things. Hell, Silence of the Lambs won a fucking award. Do that mean you need to show it in schools? By that logic and what she's saying, that's what she's basically alluding to. Oh, well, this movie, it won an Academy Award. Oh, then yeah, you can show it in elementary schools. We can show it to some second graders. Why not? It won an award. It's like, come on, don't be that stupid, Joy, and that disingenuous. Jesus Christ.
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? Just
Boom. And here's my thing. In a public school library, there is absolutely no context in which that is appropriate. None. She literally mentioned what takes place in the book: rape, anal rape, incest, and strap-on dildos. In any context, I would love for someone to be able to frame up a context as to where that would be appropriate for a child. You can't be no dumber than that. What context would that be appropriate for a child? A child to be able to actually need to hear that type of descriptive literature. I don't know of one. I just don't. I'm sorry. Say what you want to say, but it makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, that's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Are Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just
to
gave
name-
me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George,
Oh, man, I
I
can get
believe
the,
is his first
chat
name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're
presenting
asking me to
yourself as an
remember the
expert.
name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't
specific things.
Joy.
Here's my
We're
question.
talking about
Here's my
strap.
question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation.
What does that have to do with the price of rice in China? Why do I need to know the author, and what do I need to know about the author to have issue with the content? I would love to know that part. Like, what makes you think that that is the thing to where I need to know what's going on in that perspective before I can actually comment on, hey, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't sound correct. This is offensive. This is not appropriate. I have to know the author to do that? Really? I don't get it. I just don't understand that, but whatever.
You are not an expert. In this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean,
this
Exactly.
book is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right, or a Moms for Liberty activist's right, to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it?
They do have a right. They absolutely do have a right to have access to that book at home, not in a public school. I know that that's just like, I mean, mind blowing, but that's it. They do have access to it. They just should not be exposed to it in a public school. Because here's the other part to this too. There's certain things that you want your kid to actually, have access to, whatever the case may be. And there's certain things that you may want to teach your kid about. And you need to be there as the parent to explain it and to make sure that they get the understanding that you want them to get about it. That's just what that is. It should be a thing to where, hey, yes, my kid can have access to, and when you think about it like this, taking it a step further, when you go into other things and other cultures and things like that, they educate their own on that kind of stuff. If I'm Jewish, I'm going to go to Hebrew school, Jewish school, and I'm going to learn everything I need to learn about my people and my culture as a Jew. I'm going to get to learn it at that school, taught by those that are Jewish. The language, all of that stuff, I learn it all from that particular school. If I'm Greek, I go to Greek school and I learn all about my heritage, all about my traditions, my culture. I learn about it there. It is not in public school, or it is not the responsibility of the public school system to teach my child about my history, my culture, from my people. And it should be the same way with black folks. You should have to go to black school, whatever you want to call it. When you go and you learn about Black people, our culture, our history, not just about slavery, but our history, where we're from, how we got the things that we have, why we do the things that we do, all of that should be taught there, not by the public school system. Public school system should be there, should be in place, and the curriculum should be based on the standardization of the founding principles of our country and our culture. The things we need to function, like math, being able to read English, being able to investigate things, science, learning about our history. I get it. Our country's history. That's what it should be about. Oh, let me read this. I didn't even see this. Good evening, sir. Wish I could stay for this live, but I've got an early start tomorrow. I feel you, brother. He said, I'll catch the replay. Until then, here's a 2021. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Did you get a chance to look at the update I sent you on? No, I didn't. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it tonight and see, because I know you sent me 2 of them. I'm going to look at it tonight and we could possibly talk about it, man. So yeah, let me look at it tonight and I'm going to get back to you. So yeah, be looking to hear from me sometime tomorrow. Thanks, bro. Let's go ahead and get back into it.
You're right to say they can't.
So again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And
Joy,
each parent, no. Each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer.
Yes, for their child to read, not at school. And here's my thing. If you want to send your kid to school with the book, All Boys Aren't Blue, and your kid is reading that book, fine. But I don't need your kid to give my kid that book. When your kid is having reading time at school or whatever the case may be, quiet time at school, they in study hall or whatever, and they want to read that book and you are okay as a parent with them reading that book, sure thing. Let them read the book. But it shouldn't be in the school's public library.
One more time. What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story.
Yes, that's exactly what she said. Why would I feel seen by a book about a child being anally raped and I did not have that life experience? Why would I feel like I'm being seen? And again, how do you justify a kid learning about incest, pedophilia, rape, and anal rape appropriate in school?
You're now making assumptions about a child.
No, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
You're literally
shelf.
creating a story behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida. Okay. I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt. Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you. Thank you so much. It's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It
this
would
is
allow
so
any
stupid.
parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue, that they can make that choice? Because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they
want children to read books.
Why not?
Why wouldn't I be able to just have a book or just have movies and content with porn? And if your parent doesn't like it, they can use the opt-out form. Why not? Why wouldn't I just have a movie in the or books about gang violence ready for these kids to read? Why wouldn't I allow them to have that? And if you don't like it as a parent, then you sign the opt-out form. If you want your kid to have something or to have access to something, just get it for them yourself. Don't rely on the school to allow it. You expose your child to it. I don't want my child to be exposed to anything like that. I just don't. And in a public school setting, I don't think that's appropriate. And it's just not. There's no way you can justify that.
Just opt out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot.
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
Let's do
I'm
it.
so sorry.
Look at how she won't let her finish. Look at how she won't let her finish.
First of all, hold on. One moment.
Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
The
books that Moms for Liberty.
With pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
And here's the thing. Why would it be appropriate? And this is my kicker right here. This is my kicker. Why would it be appropriate for me to have a graphic book in the public school library? However, it's inappropriate for me to read said graphic book in a school board council meeting. Where's my damn cricket sign at? Damn it. Can't find it. But that is like my biggest thing. Why would it be appropriate for me to have a book that is graphic in the public school library? However, I cannot read said book in a public setting because it would be inappropriate, because it is so graphic.
Bing bang.
I don't get that at all.
There's America used to understand that there was something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again.
Ratings on movies.
Again. Ruby Bridges Goes to School is on the list of books that Moms for Liberty has attempted to have removed.
Absolutely not.
It absolutely is. Let me ask about the people who are making the decision for their parents, because you have not answered yet why a liberal parent or an African-American parent
We have parents who are Democrats who are members of our organization.
But you're still trying to make decisions for all the kids. Here are some of the parents.
Yes, because if I don't, you will expose my kid to every fucking thing under the sun. Why would I let you just put whatever you want into the school system, and if I don't like it, then I got to opt out? Who the hell is going to make sure that my kid doesn't get exposed to it when I opt out?
That are filing, or some of your advocates. Bridget Ziegler, the Moms for Liberty co-founder, the wife of the recently ousted Florida Republican Party chairman, Christian Ziegler, who allegedly was involved in threesomes, same-sex threesomes. Mrs. Ziegler was removed from the school board at which she was a leader. You've had
She wasn't removed from the school board.
Okay, you have Lauren DePaula. She was making book ban requests in Alachua County, but then records show that she and her husband didn't live there. They'd sold their home in that county. Carrie Blair in Tennessee, who was arrested for property theft charges after allegedly stealing from Target, skip scanning in Target. Why should those three people get to make decisions about what other children should be able to read? Other parents' children should be able to read.
Do you know that I served as a school board member from 2016 to 2020?
Are you going to answer my question?
Yeah, I'm
because
going
we don't
to.
have an endless time.
Joy, I'm going to answer your question, but I need you to understand that when I was an elected representative, I would sit on that dais, and how dare I, sitting there as an elected representative, judge a parent when they would come to the podium to speak and advocate for their child? Because as we started this conversation, we'll end it. Every parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children, and I would not stand.
And here's my thing. I don't know why she was, and she definitely could use some coaching on her points, because her points are fucking home runs if she knows how to articulate them. The same way that other things are decided in the public school system. Here's the point. Everybody doesn't want their kid exposed to these types of things. If they are of a graphic nature to where I can't read them in a public forum, if you want your kid to have it, you expose your kid to it. It should not be up to the school to do it, because there are other kids that could potentially be exposed to that type of content that they don't want their kid exposed to. It's simple.
Judgment,
let us end on a point of agreement.
About a parent's education level, their sexual orientation, their race, their religion. That is not what America is about.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask my question,
Yes,
Mrs. Justice. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
If a parent believes that their child should be able to read Ruby Bridges,
we believe that children should be able to read.
Then how can Moms
American
for Liberty
hero.
insist that the school board take that book away and then say that a parent who wants the child to be able to read it must purchase it? That's essentially putting a tax on parents who want their children to read the book. Your kids get to have books for free that you.
Takes me back to what I said about free lunch. The free lunch is the free lunch. You want your kid to have something outside of that, you need to purchase it. It's just that simple. Just that simple.
Agree with, but children who want to read, or parents who want their children to read books you don't like, have to purchase it. That doesn't sound fair.
Did you know that in the city that we're sitting in, only a quarter of children are reading on grade level?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And so while we're having this conversation about books in libraries, two things should be happening.
That's a great point.
We should be talking about literacy rates and the fact that America's kids are not learning how to read, and we should be having vibrant conversations about what books should be in libraries.
Absolutely.
And here's the other key thing to that. It just goes to show you how the parents are not involved in children's lives anymore. If you got that low of a number of children that are reading, at the appropriate level, then that lets you know you damn sure ain't gonna get no parent to do an opt-out form when they're not even monitoring what their kids are reading, or if their kid can read. Miss Reid. Makes no sense. All right, so this is them talking about that so-called debate.
Joining me now, Ali Velshi, MSNBC chief correspondent and host of Velshi Weekends at 10 a.m. on MSNBC, and Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and more importantly, both my friends. I'm going to start with you, Ali. I know you guys had a chance to listen to that conversation.
I took notes. I've never taken a note on an interview in my life, but that was so much to keep up with there.
What did you take?
Well, I think there are a few things. One is that there was some talk about George M. Johnson, who wrote...
I will note that Ms. Justice did not know his name. She knew all sorts of things about
him. Why does that mean? Why is that important? Why would I need to know this person's name when I know the type of content that's in their book? What difference does it make if I know this person's name or his freaking social security number? If I don't know it, I don't know it. It should not matter that I don't know. As long as I can cite and point out the bad content, that's exactly what I should be able to do. And I don't have to be an expert to do that. That makes no sense. Oh, only an expert can critique someone's. No, this is America, Jack. And in America, you should be able to say whatever you want and critique whatever you want. However, I should not be allowed to do that with children. I shouldn't be allowed to control and tell a child, or not control, and I should not be allowed to expose a child to content of a graphic nature that could potentially damage that child's psyche. Or even pique the interest of something in my child whom has no idea what they're being introduced to, which is why you don't let children make adult decisions, and you don't put children in adult situations. And reading about a kid in a book that was raped, anally raped by their family members, that is something I don't want my kid to have a mental picture of. That is something that I don't want my kid to be curious about. What kid would be, and using a strap-on dildo? What kid in what instance would you want a kid to be curious about that? Now, if that's your thing as an adult, so be it. Hey man, you do what you want to do. It is what it is. But I don't want my kid reading about being anally raped, because then my kid will be,
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered.
And we all know that's a lie. But I'm just saying, I don't want my kid to be exposed to that. Kids are like, they're like basically clean slates. They are sponges. And whatever you begin to expose that child to on a consistent basis, that is what that kid will gravitate towards. That's just how that works.
She liked to say the word dildo and said that a lot. But the fact is, George M. Johnson, this is a book about George M. Johnson. Some of these books are autobiographical. Some of them are not. Some of the key books that have been banned, Lori Halls Anderson.
And here's my thing. George M. Johnson is an adult. And he's telling about his experience as a child, about the abuse he received from adults. Why would I want my child, my kid, to be exposed to that? Hey kids, I'm going to come and sit for story time, and I'm going to tell you a story about how I was anally raped by my uncle for the first 9 years of my life. Isn't that something? I want you kids to know my journey. I don't want my kid coming home asking me, Mom, Dad, what's anally rape mean? Mom, Dad, do we have a strap on? I think I want to see one. And because I was told about it today, it's story time. It's idiotic and grossly inappropriate.
Speak. Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yes.
By Stephen Chbosky.
My kids read them.
They have similar themes in them. Some of them are sexual, some of them are not, but they are experiential. They're real books. And kids see themselves in these books, number one, and that does save lives. Yeah. So when your guest says when a child has been raped.
No, therapy saves lives. Your kid has some type of traumatic experience like that. They need therapy, not a fucking book that cosigns what the fuck happened to them happened to someone else. They don't need that. Hey, when I was 13, I was gang raped by a bunch of grown men in an alley. I would probably feel like killing myself until I picked up this book and read about another girl who lived in the same town I lived in, and it happened to her. And she's just 2 years older than me. Maybe it was the same group of people that did it.
We should do a lot better.
Jesus
than a book.
Christ.
Sometimes the book is the lifesaver, number one. Number two, how about all those kids who haven't been raped?
And here's my thing, sir. Sometimes the book is the lifesaver. However, the book shouldn't be the lifesaver. And just because a book has the potential to save a life doesn't mean it should be available to every goddamn kid in the school system. That's stupid. Because every kid doesn't have that type of life experience, and because of that fact alone does not mean, it doesn't indicate that they should be exposed to that type of content. Now, as an adult, if they want to read about it, they're intrigued about it, they want to learn about it, fine. But you don't do that to children. Assholes.
But those of us who don't grow up with these experiences in black households, in poor households, in Hispanic households, in gay relationships, these are the way in which we tell people's stories, right? You learn other people's stories. We started the book club because of 1619 Project, because people just objected to this idea that this new date that had been introduced by Nicole Hannah-Jones somehow obscured or blanked out what they thought their history was. Yeah. To most thinking humans, it's just another data point. So this idea that these books are just pushed back because people don't want this idea of learning other people's stories to be out there. It's disingenuous to call it all about sex. Kids know all about sex. Kids
don't know all about sex. Where the fuck do you get off with that? Kids don't know all about sex. And they're just literally, and to me, I'm just telling you what it is to me and why it offends me so much. Because they're trying to normalize it. And they're trying to normalize it. The only reason why I can think of it is so that they can do it. You tell a lie long enough, it'll become the truth.
Always known all about sex. In fact,
children have always known all about sex. How, Sway? That's some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. They all sitting there nodding with it.
If there's anything to do, it's do a better job ensuring that kids get proper sex education. That's because right. the correlation is...
Okay, I'll play. So what is that? What is proper sex education? And at what age do you introduce that to children? And here's the other part to that. And if you're going to introduce it to children, to what capacity? To what level? Do you talk about just the biological aspects of the reproductive system and pretty much how sex works and the results of it? Or do you get into the kinky pleasures of SD, BS&M, or whatever the fuck it is? Do you get into that? Do you have a class where you teach children how to give oral sex? Do you have a class about French kissing and being able to do all kinds of sexual positions? Do you have a class on that then, since you want to teach all kids so they can know all about sex? That's some of the dumbest crap I've ever heard. And all I'm saying is, hearing it like this, I'm calling it what it is. These people have a hidden agenda because they want to be able to manipulate children, plain and simple, for sexual purposes. They want to normalize it so that they can do it to these kids. I don't see any other reason why you would want to give this type of exposure to or expose children to this type of graphic content unless that's what your goal is. If I show it to them early enough, they'll think it's all right. If I show a kid dead stuff now, by the time they turn 10, they'll be used to it. Same concept.
Is direct. If kids get proper sex education, they have safer sex lives. They don't get pregnant as early. Yeah. Things like that happen.
Bullshit.
So I think this was. I'm grateful you had the conversation. Yeah. But the folks who are.
If kids have parents, then they don't have those things that happen. If kids have mothers and fathers in the home, then those types of things don't happen.
You don't have a right to tell everybody else what they can and cannot read. And that's really what was so.
Oh, but we have a right to tell everybody else what kind of shot they need to take. Oh, but we have a right to tell everybody what kind of guns they can and can't have. Oh, but we have a right to tell people what they can and can't say.
So shocking to me is how she really wouldn't even address that issue, because what's a library for if not to learn? Yeah. Whether it's to learn about something, maybe an individual.
She's right about that. Yes, a library is there to learn. Yes, a library is there for archive purposes and stuff like that, for books to learn about history and to learn about different aspects of different stories and from different people's lives and for educational purposes. Shouldn't be in the goddamn schools, though, when it's that graphic. Period. I want my kid learning about math, English, science, history, as opposed to dildo sex, anal rape. I don't want my kid learning about that. And even if it happened to my kid, I would want them getting help for that, as opposed to reading a fucking book that's just further talking about it. Because just saying, my kid isn't going to know the person who wrote the book, All Boys Aren't Blue either. So my kid's not an expert, and neither is the person who wrote the book.
Going through, or what others have gone through.
Right. To develop empathy.
To develop empathy. Right.
Empathy doesn't give you carte blanche to expose an entire school system to graphic content. It doesn't. That's what therapy is for.
Learn.
And the thing about it is that she was saying, well, buy the book. Well, first of all, that's imposing a tax on people who don't have the...
That's imposing a tax. That's imposing a tax. Saying if you want your kid to learn about this graphic shit, then hey, buy the book. Hold up. Go to your local city library and rent and check the book out. It will be there. Just don't put it in my kid's school library. That's all I'm asking. You want to take your kid up to Carter G. Woodson and get that graphic ass book and let your kid read it, or you read it to your kid? Hey, read to your heart's content. Don't put it in my kid's public school. Right, Dev said, at least with Penthouse, you can get a diagram of the badge. It's like, I don't want my kid to see that. Why don't we have it? Because, and to that point, why can't my kid have a Hustler magazine in the school public library? How come the schools don't have subscriptions to Playboy? My kid feels seen when he sees Hustler magazine in his public library. I couldn't even send my kid to school with something that graphic. They would suspend the kid, call family services on me, and I'd be in a whole whirlwind of trouble.
Cannot afford to buy the number of books that you need to buy.
But to be fair, this one point is that we do elect people. We do have people at school boards. There are communities that do get to decide certain things for the school.
But you have experts that can
I agree, and that's the point.
Those fuckers are not experts. Just because I got a college degree doesn't make me an expert. And I could be on one of those boards and not be an expert. I have my degree. Oh, well, there you go. You're an expert now. Where do you get your degree in? Hotel management? Yep. Come on over here to the school board and you decide what our kids get to eat.
That you brought up. I'm not so hooked on that there's a small group of people implementing policy as much as I am that they're not adequately prepared or
and that they're ideological. I think the other issue I have is that they're firmly ideological. And
because it's about what they want you to read. And I think you guys talked about it. It wasn't just about sex. It's about, do you want to learn history? Do you want to use African-American history? Do you want to learn about the Holocaust? They don't want certain.
And here's my thing. If it's not something that has happened historically across the country, across the world, it shouldn't be in there. The Holocaust happened and the whole world was watching. Everybody knows about that. Yes, you could teach on it. However, I wouldn't want you to have graphic pictures showing that to my 5th grader. I wouldn't want you showing dead bodies, mangled bodies to my 3rd grader.
Things in their kids' lives. They
and
don't
in any
want
kid's
it to,
lives.
But they don't want it to enter.
Yeah.
And the point is that it's supposed to be there. You want to try and shelter your kid all you want, opt out or homeschool.
Yes.
But do not do this.
Why can't they do the same thing? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Why can't you do the same thing? Because it's more of us than it is y'all. And that's one of the biggest problems with this country. We keep trying to cater to the less than 1% of people because of the optics of it. And that's bullshit.
You can also just choose to not have your kid take the book out. Librarians tell me this all the time. Most librarians have master's degrees, first of all. They're very sophisticated at this. And librarians themselves have said to me about this, please don't give me this power. Do not give. I am the state. For all intents and purposes, your school library and your public library is the state. And the school is the state. Do not give the state the power. Let's just take a very ideologically conservative view of this thing, which most of these book banners are. The state doesn't get to decide what your child reads. You get to decide what your child reads. So you ban books.
And when you get to decide what your child reads, if it's something that is graphic, it should just be read at home. Very simple. This is not complex.
You have given the state the right to decide what your child reads. That's dangerous.
And also, I think you've taken away kind of the joy. I mean, I can remember my mom unleashing my sister, brother, and I in the library where we could take any book we wanted. The power we felt of being able to come with this big stack of books.
And how many of those books, Joy, were about anal rape that you read when your mom turned you loose in the library? How many of those books were about strap-on dildo sex when your mom turned you loose into the library? How many of those books was about incest and people being raped by their uncles and aunties? Yes, because women rape kids too. How many books did you have at that time? You didn't. You know, I can clearly remember for us going to the public library, school library. The closest thing we came to nudity would be the African tribal books that they had, where they would be actually displaying the art of the different tribes in Africa. That's the closest we got. You want to see some ass and titties in the library, you go and get the African tribal books that Jacques Cousteau made. That's what you did. Right, David, the National Geographic, John. Yeah, thank you. You go and get the National Geographic book. That's the closest you got to porn. You want to see some ass and you want to see some titties. That's what you go and get. You go and read and hoped that it was an issue that had something from the motherland in it. You was looking for that goddamn National Geographic book like the swimsuit issue of the Sports Illustrated magazine back in the 80s. Flipping through them pages quick as hell, trying to find the African sisters that's in the tribal village in the hut. I remember my mama bought one. She actually bought one of those books. And it was a big, beautiful book. Had full color pages. Well, I'd be flipping through that book looking at them titties. That's it. I didn't read no caption. I didn't read shit about where they was from. None of that, what the tattoos meant and the things they did with their skin. They had a little bumps on the skin. I didn't give a fuck about none of that shit. I wanted to see them titties. Show me the boobs. Because I was young, I was impressionable, and I was exposed to seeing that. So that's why I wanted to see that. You just didn't, hey, I just didn't have, I couldn't go and tell my mom or my daddy, hey, can you buy me a porno tape so I can see it really in that? No. The only way I was able to get exposed to it was through National Geographics. That reminded me of a story. I don't know if I ever told this story or not, but the only other thing that I would be able to see is a little, something like that. My auntie had some Greek figurines, and it was like figurines of like Aphrodite and stuff like that. And they had on like these togas, or they didn't have, or they were like topless, whatever. I mean, little statues, little white statues. And they had, and it would be, it would show their breasts. And my auntie knew how that I was not only looking at them, but I was touching them, because my little young dirty ass was leaving little fingerprints on them because I would be touching and pinching the little nipples on it. And she was like, what? Why are these things getting? What is this on it? Why are they getting dirty? She figured it out and asked me. She was like, "Are you touching these?" I'm like, "Yes, I like to pinch the little nipples." Like, don't touch this shit. This is art, motherfucker. Like, but I'm a kid. I saw titties and I wanted to touch them. That's what I did. Just saying. So what do you think if a kid is reading a book and it's talking about being anally raped with a strap-on dildo? At the very least, that kid is going to want to know what a dildo is and how to use it, what you use it for, why they using it. Just saying. It's like that's natural. Well, and somebody will try to argue, well, that may not happen. Yeah, but it might happen. And I don't want my kid exposed to it.
She didn't have the money to buy, and that she didn't have to buy. And then we could turn them back in, and we had the responsibility of filling out the little thing to say it was ours for that little short period of time. That's a power you're giving kids. They're not just going after the libraries in schools.
And yes, they should be able to do that with books that are not about anal rape. That's all we're saying. I think that's all anybody's saying. Fine, they should be able to rent whatever, check out whatever books they want. But they shouldn't be able to get their hands on the ones that are talking about anal rape, incest, and pedophilia. For fuck's sake, really? We shouldn't even have to have this conversation. We should not even have to have this conversation.
They're going after libraries
yes,
too.
They absolutely are.
They're taking that joy
in North
of
Dakota,
discovery
they're
away.
going after children's sections. You know, my parents grew up in apartheid South Africa. And one of the first things my dad did after one of my first Velshi Band book clubs is he said until he left South Africa at the age of 25, he didn't know there were public libraries.
There you go.
Because they were controlling who read what.
Who read what. And that is the power that these small group of people think.
And here's my thing. Not saying that we should be controlling who reads what, but we damn sure should be controlling who reads what in a public school. That's it. Cut and dry. That's simple. And anybody, I keep saying this, anybody that's trying to muddy the waters on that part, they got an agenda, and I wouldn't trust them with my kid or yours.
Think that they can take from everyone else.
I wouldn't trust them with my kid or yours. That's all I'm saying. You can't tell me that somebody who is willing to expose their child or think it's okay for children to be exposed to this type of adult content, graphic content, to where they can't even fully process what's going on because they're so young. That's why we have things like age of consent. And even though it's different in different states, there's still an age of consent. And you don't hear anybody talking about, oh, yes, and when I was just a young kid, being able to just go and sleep with anyone at the age of 5, it was so empowering. Because a kid doesn't even understand the gravity of what that is and what sex looks like and what sex does at that age. That's why it's illegal to do it. Nobody's trying to control the kid. We're just trying to control what this kid is exposed to at the young, fragile age and time frame of being a kid. I hope this video helps somebody become a better version of themselves. I hope that this makes people really start to think about this left agenda and the things that they have going on and how sick they are, because this is beyond a problem. This is something to where it is just flat out criminal and egregious. There's no way that something like this should even be up for discussion when it comes to children. Plain and simple. And I'll end it one more time with this. You don't put children in adult situations, and you don't let children make adult decisions. That's it. I'm Brian Redmond. This is the Relationship Rehab. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. I appreciate each and every last one of y'all that donated. Click the like button. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. Till next time, peace, and I'm out.